Welcome back to another episode of the Kswap 240, where today we are going to upgrade the shifter and head off to the dyno. Big day today for the Kswap 240. First off is the shifter. I'm gonna jump inside and show you what we've got planned for that and why I'll be replacing the current one. And then afterwards, we are headed to the dyno. And that is because we want to do a baseline before we get all of these other mods that we've got planned for it. So without further ado, let's jump inside. I'll show you what I've got planned for the shifter. For those of you that don't remember, I'm just going to quickly recall. We've got a BMW E46 ZF 5-speed gearbox in this car right now. And that means I had to go to a different shifter for obvious reasons. The 241 is built into the gearbox. Therefore, I went with the K shifter, and I had to do a little bit of work. It was meant for a Miata. There is nothing actually wrong with it. It just comes down to preference. And for me, that is, I find that the shifts, as you can see, are pretty long. So it is quite a long throw, and I think that is a byproduct of how long I had to make the rod, because we had to make a custom shift rod, which I'll show you underneath. So therefore, what I wanted to do is just change this thing up to something with a little bit shorter throw, and that is the Coolerworx shifter. This is actually meant for a BMW. If you guys remember, we used this in our 2JZ M3, and I really like it in that car. It's super precise, the shifts are short and whatnot. So what I'm gonna do today is retrofit this into here and give it a very track-oriented shifter feel. I'm gonna start off by removing the shifter rod, and I think I may be mistaken. I don't think the length is actually affecting the ratio for the throw, because really if it's shorter or longer, that all just depends on, I think, the pivot point of the shifter. So let me pull that out and let's look at removing the shifter. So here is our K shifter. As you can see, very simple design with the base plate. I'll show you in a second what the Coolerworx does for a base plate. I did, however, notice that so this is the shift rod, and it fits snugly right onto the backside of the K shifter. However, onto the Coolerworx one, I can see that the gap is like 2 to 3 millimeters. I'm just measured it with a caliper, and it's just gonna need a little bit of shaving to fit into there. Nevertheless, that's not a huge problem. And I really don't wanna have to shorten or lengthen this because it's already been welded and whatnot. So this is gonna stay as is. So my placement of this is going to depend on the vertical position of where this sits. But for a base plate, the nice thing with the Coolerworx setup is David gave me 2 different base plates. I don't know where this is out of, but it looks like the E46 M3 unit is the one I'm gonna use. And the way it works is it sandwiches itself like this, whereas the K one just bolts onto the top of the tunnel. So I'm gonna have a little bit of flexibility to make this work, because I'll be able to like stick in between. I'll probably have to drill another hole, maybe 2, and then just sandwich it in like that, and it should fit nice and snug. So without further ado, I think it is time we get down to some serious work. Well, that install turned out to be a lot easier than I thought. I was worried I was gonna have to do a bunch of weird things to mount this thing, but I was able to just use the sandwich plate and put it underneath and secure it, and it was nice and tight on there. And as you guys just saw, I was able to just shave down enough plastic on the shift boot trim here that it just slid over. It's a slight little hump right here, but I'm not gonna complain about that. I thought I was gonna have to cut it, but I'm just gonna leave it as is. Like, it's on here, it's nice and tight, and best of all, check out the shifts on these. This is gonna be like full ready race spec, going through the gears, banging them. Wow, this is awesome. This is such a huge improvement for me, like on the racetrack. So good. So, with that being a wrap, there's one last thing I wanna do before we head to the dyno. Now, I'm not superstitious at all, but every once in a while, it doesn't hurt to ask for a little bit of help. And I'm going to the VTEC gods for that VTEC goodness to make sure that this car makes all the jam on the dyno. They do say stickers are worth like 5 to 10 horsepower, so I'm not sure what an emblem is gonna give us, but you never ever know. All right, let's line this sucker up. She's looking good right there. VTEC, yes, there we go. An S14 with some VTEC power.
All right, we are here with TuningByNick at TuningByNick on your dyno. It is a two-wheel drive Mustang dyno.
Mustang dyno, yep.
And in case you guys are wondering why we're not at Sash's dyno, he's just busy building an empire, building that mountain pass performance business. So we thought, let's bring our buddy Nick in here and see what we can do on his dyno. And plus it'll give us an interesting data point of a Mustang versus a Dynapack too, which I think will be kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see. You guys know how much this made on Sash's, so I'd like to see what it makes on my dyno.
Yeah, it made 203 and 175 torque on Sash's, so be interesting to see what it makes on here. And this is of course going to be a baseline on this dyno so that when we do the cams and the intake manifold that we've got coming for this motor, that we can then have Nick tune it and see what our gains are, because we want to give you guys the good data, the good numbers. So,
exactly.
And Nick's, for those of you who don't know, you have a long history in tuning Hondas. This is kind of your area of specialization.
I think it's about 17 years now.
17 years, yes. He's an old Honda guy.
I've tuned a lot of Hondas.
He's coloring his beard more than I am, but he's been around a while, guys. So let's strap this thing down and see what kind of jam she makes. Look at that, all we had to do is bolt it on Nick's dyno and we made an extra 13 wheel horsepower.
Yep.
I love it, but we did lose 3 foot-pound of torque for some mysterious reason, and I guess this just goes to show that there are differences between dynos, and we've always known that. We've used other dynos ourselves, but this re-illustrates that fact. And a bit odd though to see that kind of a gain on the horsepower, but a little loss on the torque. I don't know that I've seen that sort of trade-off before. I wonder if it's like a rolling inertia dyno thing versus a hub dyno thing, or what the reasons are.
I don't know what the reasons are, but I definitely have seen differences going between dynos. I've done back-to-back dyno testing, and no two dyno reads the same.
Yeah. So when you're putting your dyno numbers in your signature on your favorite Facebook group, everyone, it doesn't really mean that much. What we want to show are the differences between modifications. So that's really what our goal was today, is to give you that good baseline. And I guess we're back to the shop now. And by the way, if you want to see some other cool Honda content, jump onto Nick's YouTube channel. It's just called TuningByNick, and you're in the midst of a all-wheel drive RSX build.
Yes, I am.
It's pretty awesome, and maybe even cooler, K-swapping a 997
Yes.
Porsche 911.
Yeah, exactly. I have a 2006 Porsche 911 Carrera S, and I'm putting a K24 well, I will be turbocharging it, but right now it's just getting a K24 swap, and eventually we'll get a turbo setup. So I'm working away at that, and it should be pretty cool.
It's pretty wild. I'm looking forward to seeing both of those cars running.
It's kind of been a dream of mine, actually.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, we've been talking about K-swapping something cool like an old Ferrari or something along those lines, but what you're doing is pretty awesome. And who knows, maybe Nick will even let us drive them once they're done. Take
Definitely.
them out to TMP, go for a rip.
I actually do want you to take them around TMP and see what kind of lap times you can do, because that's the whole point of it. Like, I want to make it better.
Yeah.
I want to show what the K24 can do in that car and in my RSX, because I've got a K24 on the RSX as well.
Yeah,
so.
no, I'd love to. I've never tried an all-wheel drive converted, front-wheel drive car yet. And it's such a popular thing to do these days. It'd be pretty neat to try that out. Maybe that's another one we got to do, Pete. Is an all-wheel drive Honda at some point?
I'd love to, yeah.
Well, that's a wrap, everyone. And in the next episode, you will see us installing those camshafts and intake manifold that we mentioned earlier. And if you're wondering what we're doing, well, we're going with Drag Cartel 2.2 cams, which we know makes good power. We've seen them used in other cars, so we're excited to drop them in there. And of course, we need a valve train upgrade to support those, so we've gone with some SuperTech stuff that you'll see as well. And the manifold is from K-Miata, which we also know should make more power. So we're hoping for a pretty good bump in power here, but of course, you never know until you bolt everything on and come back to the dyno. So stay tuned for all of that very soon.
Also the valve cover. I got to finish up the valve cover. We have something really big and cool planned for the valve cover, so we're working on that. And once that's done, I will definitely share it with you.